Hello guys, it feels good to have you back on Motor Nation. So, we have spoken about the challenges associated with owning an EV. If you are a regular on our channel, you probably know what these challenges are. However, these challenges are a lot more serious than you think. They are grave and can spell the death of some of the biggest auto firms in the United States. This might be difficult to believe. But if you understand the challenges associated with selling EVs, then you might begin to understand the possibility of some auto firms closing down because of their association with electric vehicles. Ford and GM are some of the biggest auto firms in the United States. There might be several reasons for this. However, one reason they are as big as they are is the number of vehicles they have sold. These two firms are masters at selling vehicles. But it's interesting how they can't sell EVs. Well, it might be easy to blame Ford and GM for their inability to sell EVs. But is it their fault? We will find out more about this in a moment. But in the meantime, kindly like and share this video. Also, please subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this. Before EVs became a thing, combustion engines were considered terrible for the environment. Also, it seemed like EVs came into the picture as a solution to the problems caused by gas-powered vehicles. Due to this, several people decided to purchase EVs instead of gas-powered vehicles. At the time, it seemed like a great move. But right now, it is almost easy to say that car enthusiasts seem wiser and are no longer interested in EVs. You see, the same people who chose EVs over combustion engines are no longer interested in EVs. They want to go back to the cars they once drove. Right now, one could say it is up to them to choose whatever car they want. But things are not as straightforward as they seem. Due to the preference for EVs over combustion engines, several companies in the United States have invested in producing EVs. However, since several people are not interested in EVs anymore, selling them has become a big challenge for Ford and GM. It might be difficult to understand the sudden reason for the lack of interest in electric motors. Sadly, if you have owned one, you can tell they are not what most people expected them to be. When compared to combustion engines, they just are not good enough, and car enthusiasts are tired of putting up with them. The inability to sell EVs is bad for Ford and GM, but not many people know how badly affected they are. Due to these companies' inability to sell EVs, they have relieved up to 1,000 people of their jobs in just a week. And it gets worse. They have lost up to $4 billion. Ford and GM are still standing. But at this rate, it is difficult to tell how long they will be leaders in the auto industry. These firms might make it through this trying time. But for some reason, if you are unable to make it through this period, their crash might be the biggest the auto industry has experienced. Since EVs are not so marketable, why are Ford and GM even striving to sell them? This is probably a question you have asked yourself a couple of times. However, it just might be the wrong question. The question you should be asking is, why are politicians making it a must for people to drive EVs? We might never find out the actual reason why politicians are keen on getting everyone to own an EV. You could assume they are doing this to save the environment. But this isn't the main reason they are making it a mandate for everyone to own an EV. But even if it were the only reason they want people to own EVs, the fact that EVs are considered great for the environment doesn't make them perfect. They come with quite several flaws. This in itself is not a problem. Other types of vehicles also have flaws. But making it seem like EVs are perfect and forcing firms to produce them without even thinking of what the outcome could be is the problem. Speaking of flaws, lots of folks might be walking away from EVs because of their many flaws. This is not a piece of information that could be swept under the rug. But walking away from EVs just because that's what a lot of people are doing isn't the way to go. It is important to know what these flaws are. We will come to this later. But in the meantime, you might want to know what is replacing EVs. Lots of folks will assume people walking away from EVs are walking straight to combustion engines. Interestingly, that's not the case. You see, EVs might not be perfect. Nonetheless, they have some good sides, and car enthusiasts are not willing to give up on the good they have to offer. This might seem like a big deal, but it isn't. You see, EVs are associated with some good. However, combustion engines also come with some good sides that people want to take advantage of. The easiest way to enjoy all that combustion engines and EVs have to offer is by getting hybrid vehicles. Hybrids come with lots of qualities. They are a perfect blend of all the power that gasoline-powered cars have to offer and the eco-friendliness of EVs. So, if you have always wanted to own an EV but do not want to worry about the issues associated with charging one, a hybrid vehicle is one you can take advantage of. That's not all. They are not as expensive as EVs. So, you don't have to worry about them drilling a hole in your pocket. When it became quite obvious that lots of car enthusiasts were interested in owning hybrids, a couple of auto firms decided to listen to their customers and focus some energy on hybrids. Sadly, Ford and GM didn't think it was important to focus some of their energy on hybrids. Sadly, they are paying the price. There is a major struggle with selling EVs, and for each EV these firms sell, they end up losing about $36,000. This can be likened to throwing money away and is an easy way for a firm to go bankrupt. Alright, now let's talk about the challenges associated with owning an EV. Of the many challenges associated with EVs, the most obvious is the price tag they come with. Since EVs are more expensive than hybrids and combustion engines, the monthly payment for an EV is considered quite mammoth. If the funds that have to be spent to get an EV were all one would need to worry about, then getting an EV wouldn't be such a big deal. Well, apart from the price tag attached to EVs, they are a bit practical. When looked at critically, it is easy to consider EVs a luxury. Sadly, they are marketed as a necessity. Although EVs might seem too normal to be considered a luxury, the fact is, they seem okay for people who live in a part of town where charging stations are not scarce. Sadly, for folks who live in neighborhoods where locating a charging station is a big deal, it might be really difficult to get the most out of EVs. EVs being expensive and quite difficult to maintain are major challenges. But there is more. They are very unreliable, and when compared to other vehicles, owners will need to put in a lot of effort into fixing them. If fixing bad EVs was the only issue with their reliability, lots of owners would probably not be worried. But unlike other vehicles, when EVs get bad, it is impossible to change a part. A form of overhauling has to be done. The cost associated with fixing an EV might be overwhelming. Not everyone would have a problem with the amount needed to fix a bad EV. But regardless of one's financial status, an EV isn't a vehicle that can come in handy for doing road trips. The absence of ample charging stations is one reason for this. As bad as not having the right number of charging stations is, the available charging stations are usually overcrowded, and one might have to wait for an eternity before charging. Some people do not mind waiting a long time before charging their EVs, but for those who are uncomfortable with this, this is a perfect reason to ditch their EVs. It is currently impossible to tell where Ford and GM are headed. They still have lots of EVs that are yet to be sold, and these cars might sit in their car lots for much longer. But time will tell if they come up with a super strategy. Thanks for going all the way. See you in the next video.